So our new policy engine enables policies to be assigned or managed at a workspace level for much more rigorous controls and risk management. Can you tell us about our new policy engine?
Yes. Without going in too much of the weeds, but I'll have to, it's just a natural tendency. The previous way of tackling policies was every time you create say a vault or a Web3 wallet, you would assign a policy or inherit a policy from the account or fund in which you were in. But say you wanted to then change that policy, and you set up a similar policy on several vaults and Web3 wallets, but you now have to change all of them one by one, right? That wasn't really an ideal user experience. And particularly if you're looking at, as this adoption scales and there are more and more eyes that are looking at securing digital assets, perhaps the role of managing access control and the role of actually using it are going to be completely distinct. So we needed a way to separate essentially the management of policy to the actually application of a policy to a wallet, and that requires some changes on chain that unfortunately we cannot make a big fanfare on. But it's essentially a way to, instead of attaching that a policy in a wallet itself, we link to it, and therefore if you change a policy, you can be changing several wallets at the same time. That required a change on our chain, but also from a user experience standpoint, you'll see, and we'll get to it. And it's actually, I'm gonna spoil your next point because I'm too excited about it. But one of the first use cases of this new setup is we introduced something called admin policies, and this is kind of intuitive if you think about it. Say you want to set up. You have two different security environments. You have your phone, in which you want to just be fast and operational, but if you lose it, you don't want to go and recover with your seed phrase at some point, because you might not want to handle with that. But you still need a way to recover your asset if you lose your keys. And one of the ways in which you could do that is to ensure that you've got an admin policy that controls your sign-in policy. And essentially what that does is splits the responsibility of ongoing signatures over that those transactions that you're securing with Credo, and the management of what secures those transactions. An example of how you would use the management is, let's assume I lost my phone and my house burned down and I lost my seed phrase. Well, with an admin policy, I could simply rewrite the policy that governs the signatures of that key with my new phone, and then move on from it. The beauty of it is your phone can be used daily, right? You don't have to worry about it too much. This admin policy, you can potentially store it in something much more secure or completely away from your day-to-day operations, and use it as your first line of defense if you're recovering from a disaster. So this is one use case. I will use it myself this way as an individual. But if you're an enterprise, again, that split of responsibility is an important one. Signing is one thing, administering is another thing, and it's often done by two different governance structure within a company. So this is another way of representing that requirement.
Awesome, thanks. And I think when it comes to institutions as well, one of the big things that's blocking them from entering the space is always around security, because if you're investing large sums of money in a space that kind of has a bit of a reputation for being a little more risky, you want to have those extra safeguards up and put in place. So definitely really good for opening the doors to more institutional investment.
Yeah, and I guess having worked into one of these large organizations, I can already say with the primitives of what we're building on right now with cryptography, zero knowledge proof that we use on our phone back to the server and so on, it's already a much more secure and scalable way of getting that finer grain access control that an organization of the size of JP Morgan, like my previous employer, might need to even entertain entering the space. And it's hard work. It takes a lot of time and a lot of refinement. But I'm quite optimistic. I think the direction is the right one. But again, it's just you win with the details, and so we need to put this out. And we got another few features in store down the line. But we just want to hear what people think about this one.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm sure we'll get some good feedback there. Cool. So moving on here, I know we kind of already just touched on it for admin policies, but admin policies can now lock signing policies, as we just previously discussed. So serving as a fail-safe in case of loss of keys from approvers or for stricter rigor in policy changes. Did you want to add anything else here on what we can expect?
No, that was a beautiful summary.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Gabe. As always, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our listeners. Be sure to keep in touch with Credo for all updates and news, as you will always hear it here first. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more on the roadmap to come, so keep your eyes peeled.